Hey guys, what's up? Today we are going to talk about my new build for 3.14, which is a autobomber fireburst Elementalist. I had one of these made up in POB before the league started, but I decided at the last minute to switch and start exchange weight. So you can see some delve clearing here. It's still in the leveling process. I think I just hit 80 right after this video. But either way, it's been a ton of fun. Really fast play style, really safe. The sustain on it's quite nuts. So I got a little bit of footage here, and then we'll go over the build in a little bit more detail. Let's see here. You can play the build with no skills. With the gear choices I've made, you can just run around and Herald of Thunder will automatically proc, and it'll keep Fire Burst going. For bossing, I use Wave of Conviction, both for the debuff and to trigger Fire Burst whenever Herald of Thunder's not going. Ultimatums are so easy. You just run in circles. None of the mods really matter. The only one that one right there, the cooldown reduction one, you don't want to pick that because Fire Burst has a 1 second cooldown, and I think it's a 5 times multiplier, so it ends up turning up to like a 5 second cooldown. You can get that lowered down to 0.79 with cooldown gear, but I've found that wearing Aberrath's hooves ends up being faster clear than the little bit of extra cooldown you can get from boots. I do recommend still getting it put on your glove or your belt, but for bossing it doesn't matter. We're like a 3 second, somewhere around there, ignite duration. So the duration's longer than the cooldown, so we can keep DPS up full time. So let's take a look here at the POP for the tree. As I said, Elementalist. You can play without Shaper of Storms. I found that every once in a while I was having some downtime on my Herald of Thunder, and I didn't want to deal with that, so I put it back on. You can either do Legion of the Primordial, mess with your gems a little bit, and get some golems in there for damage, or you can do Bastion of the Elements. With this one, you can run all map mods. We don't rely on regen. We have it, but we don't rely on it. We don't rely on any mana, anything like that. So if you can, right now the only thing we can't run is Elemental Reflect. With this you can, and it helps a little bit with the elemental damage. I know it got nerfed this league, but you should still end up probably with like a, I don't know, 2500, somewhere around there, shield, which isn't too bad. But anyways, you're going to bring this up, get you some life and mana. We are staff block, so you're going to take all the staff block nodes. Right here you can put Transcendent Mind for a little bit of a boost. I think it's 8.5% more DPS. Make sure you grab Elemental Overload. This will just stay up pretty much by itself. Herald of Thunder, I don't believe can crit, but Fire Burst can. And then your Aberrath's Hooves will crit also. More life and mana. All your jewels are going to look something like this. Damage over time, multiplier, fire damage and life. Whichever one of those you can get. I would recommend definitely sticking with the life and at least 1 damage mod. Come down here, some fire damage, some more life, damage, some more staff block, just another regular jewel slot. If you have some good abyss jewels, you can do life, flat fire damage, or flat any damage to spells. Holding a 2-handed weapon, I think those roll pretty high. Those are great too. The damage effectiveness on Fire Burst is really high. It's like 340%. So that helps out. Come over here, grab some more life. Come down, more block, more life. End up down here. And then for cluster jewels, we were in 1 set. The only one that's super important, Burning Bright's really good. Get some multi, increase fire damage, and AoE. The AoE helps us in a few different spots. Obviously the Fire Burst AoE itself. More importantly, the AoE at which the ignites will proliferate from the Aberrath's Hooves boots. This one I put Doriani's Lesson on it for a little bit of leech, but it ends up not being a whole lot. Smoking Remains, take that, don't take it, doesn't matter. I was just trying to find some place for points. The only one that's important on your mediums is blowback. You want to make sure you have 2 of these if possible. They're a little bit expensive still. I think I paid, the one I'm using in the game, I think I paid like 1 exalt. Your other one doesn't really matter. Wasting Affliction is the best for damage. However, do not get Cremator. If you get Cremator, it destroys corpses on kill, which will break the chain from your Abrath Hooves. Small ones, you just want to go with Life. If you can't afford Fettle, there's another one that's the one I'm using in the game right now. Let's see here. Towering Threat's good. 8% life plus some area of effect. Also, if you feel like your life pool is good enough, you can swap one of these out for a block one. I don't know if I made one in here or not, but no, I didn't. There's a block one that gives you like 20 flat life and then 3 or 4% chance to block. With Flask up, we are at 66.35 with the current gear layout. You can get that up to 75.35 if you switch to an Anvil. It just makes decks a lot harder to get. Resistor, all easy. Let's take a look at the gear. So this is the only required item, and I made a pretty basic one. Crafted with an Essence Craft, does not need to be linked, just needs to be 6-socketed. And then any of the good modifiers for damage over time, fire damage, ignore spell damage, that doesn't work. Also flat damage on spells, doesn't even have to be fire. Elementalist will help pull that into your Ignite. Do the Devouring Diadem Helmet. This is for the reservation, so we run 4 auras. Also some extra sustain from the Feast of Flesh. I believe without the Malevolence reduce reservation enchant, you have to drop one of your auras, because we run this thing all the way down to 0 mana. And then the Eldritch Battery will keep you casting for your Wave of Conviction and Flame Dash, which is the only other stuff we use. Body armor, just life and res. If you can get a +1 curse, you can do some extra stuff with a curse. Add Despair on to your curse on hit setup. Life, res, move speed. You can go cooldown here. Cooldown on the boots. Make sure you get Dex on your gloves. Dex hungry build, I think we're at 126 required. If you have troubles with Dex, you can change your gems up a little bit, and you only lose a little bit of DPS for much lower. I think 79 max Dex ends up. I think just because I have my Blood Rage up too high. Abrath Hooves for the boots. So the main line on this that helps us, the Abrath Fury for 1, that's going to automatically trigger our Fire Burst, which will start up our Herald of Thunder and get that chain going. If you don't want to use a skill, you just walk into a pack, it'll handle itself. The next important line is when you kill an ignited enemy, inflict the equivalent ignite on each nearby enemy. This helps for 2 reasons. 1, it chains our ignites. It doesn't just proliferate them like the gem does, where they just lay on the ground. It actually jumps to the next enemy, ignites that enemy, and continues on. So if you're in a delve or any really dense area, you'll have the whole place lit up. It also helps with our sustain, which I'll go over in a minute here. Amulet, whatever you got. I mean, just life, res. I put some fire damage, leeches life on there for something to min-max a little bit later, but you're not going to get a whole lot out of it because our hit damage is really low. It's only 8,000. Whatever you end up with, you can also do the Anvil. This is going to put you up to 74.35 block, but it makes your dex 100, so you'll probably have to change some gems around. This will be a little bit more of a defensive setup. I haven't needed it yet. Gives us a little bit extra sustain. If you do this and swap one of your life clusters to a block cluster, you'll end up with 78.35 for your block, which is pretty good. This is the most important item for your sustain, is the line that reads recover 20 to 30 life gained on igniting an enemy. Make sure you get that rolled at 30. You're going to wear this, and since we are taking Shaper of Flames, we ignite everything. every hit we do, no matter the source of the damage, is going to ignite. So when you're in a map or in an ultimatum, you have your Herald of Thunder proccing constantly. Every time it hits, it ignites. You have Fireburst proccing every 1 second. Every time it hits, it ignites. You have your Abrath's Fury from your boots. Every step you take, it does a small AoE, ignites every mob around you. That recovers life. And then we run a cast when damage taken setup with Ball Lightning to generate a ton more hits. And the way Ignite works in PoE is you can ignite a mob infinite amount of times, but only the highest damage ignite will continue to do damage. So you don't have to worry about, overriding your ignite from your fire burst. It won't matter. Next, we use Malachi's Artifice for the elemental equilibrium. You're going to have Herald of Thunder socketed in this. Make sure you get a high roll. I think I got 100 to lightning resistance one for, I don't know, it was like 15 chaos or something. Make sure you get a high roll on the lightning one. The other ones don't matter. Belt. This is a good spot for your cooldown. Otherwise, life res. With your, we end up with 0.92 with just the belt. If you throw on some cooldown boots, we end up at 0.79. I'll leave it up to you guys, but I think the chaining ignite clears faster and better than the extra cooldown on that slot. For your jewel, again, this is what you want all your abyss jewels to look like if you're running them. Make sure you got decks on them. Flat life, and then flat damage. Rumies helps us cap block. Cinder Swallow, I don't have mine yet. It's great if you get it. Helps with the sustain a little bit more. And we can take use of the enemies ignited by you during Blast effect. Take 10 increased damage for 10% more damage. Adziri's Promise is just a straight up DPS flask, a little bit of leech. Also helps with chaos res, and then life and quicksilver. We went over all your jewels. Next we'll go over the skills here. So you'll see Fire Burst if you're getting into the POB here. It's on here twice. So the one that says use for DPS calc, you're going to want to make sure that's the one you have over here. And then the one for supports is the one you're going to play with your gems in. Basically, deadly ailments, burning damage, proliferation, unbound, swift, and added chaos damage. Again, Elementalist turns all damage into ignite. Added chaos has the highest average damage of all the added gems. So you pop that in there. Obviously, if you don't have the awakened versions, doesn't matter. If you're having dex problems, Swift Affliction is going to be your highest one. You can swap that out for Combustion, and then your next highest one is 79. So it makes dex way easier to get, and it's not that big of a loss. For your auras, make sure these are in your helmet. You're going to run Malevolence, and Enlighten, Anger, and Vitality. As you get some more currency, if you pump that up to a 4, you can bump your Vitality up to a 18, 17, which helps out with the regen a little bit more. This is our cast when damage taken setup. So you're going to have Ball Lightning with greater multiple projectiles, cast when damage taken, level 1. If you even want to get the Divergent to make it trigger faster, that's fine too. It'll help you out a little bit. Slower projectiles, this just helps more hits in the same area. I haven't had a problem yet, but you could run this in your 6 link and link it to your curse, but I didn't want to rely on taking a hit to have to put my curse on, so I've left it as this for now. Flame Dash, phase run's really good for the ultimatums, being able to run through mobs. Just level these along with your decks. That needs to go down a little bit, but keep these under your max decks. Leveling them up doesn't make that big of a deal anyways. For your 6 link, doesn't need to be a 6 link. 4 links fine. The meat of it is Wave of Conviction, Combustion, Hex Touch, Flammability. Definitely going to want that. Smite is just some free damage. Obviously it's kind of a pain to use, and I don't use it that often, but on big bosses you're kind of standing there not doing anything anyways, because your Ignite's automatic. Your Wave of Conviction's got not a cooldown, but it's got a duration. So you're kind of standing there with nothing to do for a while. If you go smack them with Smite, it gives you the aura that adds 12 to 220 lightning damage, which again gets turned into your ignite DPS. So as you can see, we go from 4.3 to 4.7, so not a bad DPS boost for not doing anything. And then Culling Strike. This is going to be in your Ring, Herald of Thunder, and then Abrath's Fury. That's pretty much it. We'll go over my current gear real quick. This is the staff that I've got so far. I bought this already made. I think it was like 60 or 70 C. It has burning damage on it. That's good. The pin doesn't really matter. It doesn't do anything for us. The inflict fire exposure on hit. I'm not 100% sure if that triggers off spells or if it means melee hit. I haven't looked into it. I don't really care because I'm using Wave of Conviction for exposure. But if it triggers off of spell hits, which it is worded like it would, then that's pretty nice. And then fire damage multi. Devouring Diadem, I got that with the enchant already on it. I paid, I think, 1.5x. Just bought a random 6 link with life, and I needed cold res. Didn't cost me anything, not much, a couple chaos. My amulet's nothing major, just life and res at the time, some stats. My sign with 30. I haven't tried using the Fatal Catalyst on this. It doesn't work on POB because it doesn't recognize the line. I need to buy some Fetals, or not Fetals, but whatever the Catalyst is, and Fertile. And put those on there and see if it bumps that 30 up. That'd be a couple extra life. You got your Elemental Equilibrium, just some gloves with life and res. If you're trying to min-max this, you can get Warlord gloves. Those will give you Fire Dot multi. A little DPS boost. I haven't even bothered putting cooldown on here yet. Haven't needed it. And then I got my hooves. Haven't really flushed out. I'm still leveling this build. I'm at 80. Just dinged 80. Experience is flying in ultimatums. My gem levels are... I got a couple carried over. Most of them are 17 or 18, I think. Yeah. So, anyways, hope you all enjoyed. Like and subscribe if you like the build. And I'm going to post another video of this once I get it leveled up a little bit more, probably around 90. Switch to some Awakened gems and get some better DPS going on. We'll do some in-game content with it. Thanks, guys.